Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Smart Investing Weekly Stock Analysis. After Ford reported some good news yesterday, talked about being more profitable than they anticipated this year, I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at the company. And, obviously we know Ford been around for quite a while, have a good name with the F-150, the Mustang. Even now the Ford Mustang Mach-E, I think is interesting. Initially, I didn't like the car. I thought it looked weird. Saw a couple on the road though. Wow, I actually think they're quite nice. So I think Ford is doing a good job kind of transitioning into that electric realm that I think they lagged at in the beginning, but I think they're starting to catch up a little bit here. Will say I don't like the car's name is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. I just don't think it's a Mustang. I think it's a Mach-E would have been better than the Mustang. But anyways, this isn't a car talk show. It's a financial talk show. So let's take a closer look at the fundamentals for the company Ford. As we know, Ford Motor ticker symbol here is F. As always, we want to dial down into the valuation ratios, understanding what we're paying for the different aspects of a company. Here you can see the current price to earnings multiple. Well, that's 14.97 compared to the industry of 75.15. Likely that's dragged up by Tesla in terms of the valuations, but that multiple of 14.97 does look pretty good. Moving on down here, the current price to sales at 0.45 does also come in below the industry at 2.98, so that's a positive. Current price to tangible book value 1.74, also below the industry average 7.63, and price to cash flow at 4.67 comes in below the industry at 16.1, we'll call it. So the valuation ratios look very, very strong for Ford. Looking at the dividend, the company does not currently pay a dividend. I do know they had to cut that off during the pandemic to preserve cash. Weren't quite sure what was going to happen with the auto industry. But with the strength that's been occurring in the industry, I would not be surprised to see that dividend return here shortly. Likely, I think it might resume in the third quarter, maybe even the fourth quarter. Looking at the growth rates, the sales have grown 5.56 compared for the last financial information. That compares to the industry average, was growing 10.9. Over the last 12 months, unfortunately, sales are down 13.9%, which compares to the industry of 6.3. So both laggards compared to the industry average there. Earnings, on the other hand, when I look at the last 12 months here, earnings are up 230.2%, which also lags the industry at 2,915%. So some strange numbers there, but glad to see earnings are growing for Ford. Now, as always, when I look at the financial strength of the business, we'll look at the current ratio here, 1.21, compares very similar to the industry average of 1.28. And debt to equity, it looks terrible at 451.3%. And it looks terrible, but in practice, it actually might not be terrible because with these auto companies, they have to do the financing for a lot of the vehicles, which really skews the balance sheet. So I want to dive down a little bit deeper to understand operationally how much debt does Ford actually have on its balance sheet. Looking at management effectiveness, return on capital over the last 12 months, well, that's 2.37. Like to see that again above 10 normally. It is dragged down so low because of the financing, once again, that we just discussed. Also, to a return on equity at 12.5. Normally like to see that number above 15, but likely the earnings have been depressed again during COVID, which is weighing on the return on equity. Talking about profitability, let's look at the income after tax margin of 3.1. Does compare to the industry average of 3.97. That's a profit margin for the business, so slightly below the industry average, but not terrible in terms of its profits. Also, too, looking at receivable turnover, that's at 15.1. That is above the industry at 3.3, so that's a positive. Inventory turnover at 9.9, also above the industry average of 8.9. Now, as always, we want to look forward to see what's going on with this business, get a target sell price, again, for our company we're looking at here, Ford. But to begin with, we can see the current price, I believe this is as of yesterday, is $14.77. I did see it had a small pullback today to about $14.52 is what it appears to be. 52-week high is $16.46, and the 52-week low, $5.74, well off that low there again that we saw during the pandemic last year. Now, next up, I go out to December 2022. I see estimated earnings per share here of $1.73. That would give us a target sell price of $28.72. So as we know, the valuations with this company, they're phenomenal. But some questions you have to answer if you're looking at investing into this business, you got to know how are they doing in the AV, which stands for autonomous vehicles, and the EV space. Do you think they can catch up to GM, which I think does have a lead here? And even Tesla's got a good lead in terms of its electric vehicles. And I know they've done quite well on AV as well. So curious to see how they can progress moving forward. But I think there's some potential with Ford. You just got to do that research.